Today we will be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 7, the son of Drona punished, text 20 till 22. I will read first the first verses. Ato paspriya salilam sandade tat samahitaha ajanam api samaram pranakacha upastite. So this is about Ashvatam, who had killed the sons of Draupadi, and is fleeing for his life because Krishna and Arjuna are following him in a chariot. But the horses of Ashvatam were exhausted, and he could not continue fleeing. So now he saw that his life was in danger. Translation of the verse. Since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons. Purport. The subtle forms of material activities are finer than grosser methods of material manipulation. Such subtle forms of material activities are effected through purification of sound. The same method is adopted here by chanting hymns to act as nuclear weapons. 21. Tatapaduskritam teja prachandam sarvato disham pranapadam abhipreksha vishnam jishnaruvachaha. Thereupon a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjuna thought his own life in danger, and so he began to address Lord Sri Krishna. Text 22. Thus, text we will discuss. Arjuna uvacha Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvamiko Dayamananam Apapargo Sri Samskrite. Arjuna said, "O my Lord Sri Krishna, you are the Almighty Personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies, therefore only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation in you only." Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Arjuna was aware of the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna, as he had already experienced them during the Kurukshetra war, in which both of them were present. Therefore, Arjuna's version of Lord Krishna is authoritative. Krishna is almighty and is especially the cause of fearlessness for the devotees. A devotee of the Lord is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. Material existence is something like a blazing fire in the forest, which can be extinguished by the mercy of Lord Sri Krishna. The spiritual master is a mercy representative of the Lord. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may receive the rains of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. The spiritual master, by his words, can penetrate into the hearts of the suffering person and injects knowledge, transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. Om Jnanati Manasya Jananjana Sakam Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chitchaitanyamanopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svam Rupadamayam Dadati Svaya Pradantikam Vandeyam Shiyuda Padkamalam Shigam Vaishnavam Sa Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Pitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaduttam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagadita Shivishakam Pitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhudina Vanajat Pate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radhanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gauri Radhe Vrindavanishpa Vishabhani Supadevi Panamama Hare Akakalptu Visha Kripa Sambhavisha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vipasharini Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Vaskachani Visantani. So yes, here in this verse, Lord Arjuna takes shelter of Krishna and he knows Krishna's position in that. So when does Krishna reciprocate with us? That's a good question that we learn from the Bhagavatam. We are all hankering for pleasure, and the soul by nature is pleasure seeking. Ananda Maya Vyasat. But the sense, by our faulty identification with the body, we are pushed by the senses and the genitals to find pleasure on the material platform. So we need to learn to neglect these pushings. And when, because that strive for sense gratification is a way of competing with Krishna, that from the moment that Krishna sees that we are serious and we don't want to compete with them anymore, so we are serious in giving up sense gratification. Giving up sense gratification means many times starving the senses, because otherwise the senses become so strong and their pushings increase like anything. But when Krishna sees that we are serious, then he reciprocates, and then we make spiritual advancement. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj, he used to give that example of the marriage party. In the night, they went on a boat, and the boatman was going to bring him to the other side of the river. And the boatman was rowing the whole night, but then in the morning they saw that they were still where they were at their departure point because the anchor was not lifted. So lifting the anchor means giving up, saying no to the pushings of the senses. That, because sometimes we ask, I'm not making spiritual advancement because we are not wanting to give up sense gratification. But here we see Arjuna is not a competitor of Krishna. He's very meek and humble, and he's approaching Krishna. He's approaching Krishna in the right mood. So we need to realize our foolishness and cry out to the Lord so that we can overcome these desires, these desires for taking shelter of the material energy. Arjuna was not afraid on the body, in the body concept of life. What was his fear? Remember, Prabhupada said about Arjuna is 1,000 times more qualified than all of us. So at least here, it was not the bodily concept of life that made him fearful. He was thinking, if I lose my body, I'm going to lose the association of Krishna. That's interesting. But he's praying to Krishna. Praying to Krishna means vandanam, one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Vandanam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is full of hundreds of prayers. So Arjuna will ask the Lord what is going on. That this brilliant effulgence, that this Brahmastra thrown by Ashvatthama, that somewhere or other I came on the website, not sure how I got there, but it was a website that explains all things that science could not explain. And in the Vedas, in certain passages, this Brahmastra is described. And it's described places where this Brahmastra was used. And they found out at that place where it was described that the Brahmastra was used. After that, next generations, that's noted in history, there were a lot of mutations and deviations in birth that which were caused which were like the result of a nuclear holocaust. That's interesting. But yes, they could not explain. But the other purport, Srila Prabhupada says, yes, this Brahmastra was in the previous one, I think, that so the subtle form of material activities are finer than the grosser methods of material manipulation. Such subtle forms of material activities are affected through purification of sound. The same method is adopted by the chanting of hymns to act as nuclear weapons. That's quite amazing. It will puzzle the scientists today even more. But yes, Arjuna is offering prayers but before asking the Lord what is going on here, is praising the Lord. He says to Krishna, you are always situated in a transcendental energy and you act for the benefit of the conditioned soul. Yes, Srila Prabhupada has written this purport here. He has written this purport in Vrindavan, in the Radharaman temple, that before he came to the West, he wrote all these commentaries and the theme that's developed here in the purport is that Srila Prabhupada speaks about Posanam. It's one of the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam, the protection given by the Lord. But as he speaks about the protection given by the Lord, but also the protection given by the spiritual master. And that is interesting, how we put that on the same level. So why is that? We have heard in, I think in 1-18, that's the verse, Nastri is about to Sunityan Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavata Tamasri Bhakti Bhagavata Naistiki. One should daily attend the class of the Bhagavatam and render service to the pure devotee. These two things. And then all what is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. The person Bhagavat is the person who lives the Bhagavatam, the living Bhagavatam. And the spiritual master is supposed to be the living Bhagavatam. And the spiritual master, he explains the Bhagavatam to his disciples, and in a way which is very potent. He explains it according to time, place, and circumstances, so that the disciple understands the practical value. But the spiritual master is also empowered by Krishna. Why is he empowered? So why is he called an ocean of mercy? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, he analyzes the causes of bhakti. And it's a long reasoning, but you can read it in Madhurya Kanambini, and at the end he comes to the conclusion that the pure devotee of the Lord, he can give bhakti. Because bhakti comes from bhakti. He has got it from his spiritual master, and it comes from Krishna. But Krishna says also, as in different verses, that he empowers his pure devotee to give bhakti on his behalf. So the spiritual master is empowered to give bhakti. Therefore, It's especially very potent when the spiritual master means Shiksha, Diksha is equal. We have all many spiritual masters, hopefully all those who are more advanced than us. And we hear from them. We hear from them that, and it is very potent because we have heard in the beginning of this chapter, Yasyam vai shoyamanayam Krishne paranapuse bhakti utpatyate pumsa sukamoya paha. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling of loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fear. So by giving oral reception to the Bhagavatam, in our heart is lamentation, illusion, and fear are removed. But that is what the spiritual master does. He injects the message in our ear from the Bhagavatam. And it's very potent because he has realized the message and is empowered by Krishna. And therefore, we sing every morning, and Srila Prabhupada paraphrases this, he paraphrases this in the purport here. That, let's see here, I had it, yeah. So we sing that every morning. Samsaradavan alalida lokan Tanaya karunya kanagam Vaptasya kalyumam Gunanavasyam Vande Karoshi Charanarvindam. So it says, the spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. The ocean of mercy is Krishna. He gives the benediction, he's empowered. He gets this ocean of mercy. And then just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. That's the same that Prabhupada writes here. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may receive the rains of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. So that is the special position. If we hear from the spiritual master, it's the same as hearing from Krishna directly. That Prabhupada writes that in the Bhagavad Gita. That's what it says. One may say, yes, Arjuna had direct association with Krishna. But Prabhupada writes, if we follow the direction of Lord Krishna in this book, that under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, we are in the same position as Arjuna. That's interesting. The same position of Arjuna. So the spiritual master by his words can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and injects knowledge transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. But this is knowledge. That this knowledge is about our constitutional position. And this knowledge is about the process of surrendering to Krishna. Transcendental knowledge begins with understanding Krishna's position and our position. If we understand our position, that we are not the body, we are foreign to the body, we are covered by the body, but we have our own spiritual identity and freedom. Then if we realize that, there is no fear anymore. We are fearful because of attachment to the body, attachment to things in this world. And the Bhagavatam teaches us detachment through attachment to Krishna, to understanding. By that we understand our position. So by this transcendental knowledge, we gradually realize our position and become fearless. Abhaya of fearlessness is a result of sattva samsuddhir, purification of one's existence. And that purification of one's existence comes from jnana yoga vyavastiti, from studying and realizing the scriptures under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And that is a process. Within that process, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in Saranagati, or the signs of surrendering to Krishna, 6 stages. To attain this stage, we must learn from the spiritual master what is favorable for our devotional service and what is unfavorable. And then everything we do in our life during the day, we must think, what I'm going to do, is that favorable or unfavorable for my devotional service? Very important that favorable and unfavorable. So therefore, nectar of instruction, 6 things favorable for devotional service, 16 things unfavorable. That's the beginning of surrender. Learning what's good for my cultivation of Christian consciousness and what's not good. That's a spiritual culture. If one lives in a spiritual culture, that will be automatic. So the old Vedic culture, and there are remnants in India, automatically would include what's good and bad, what's good for devotional service and what's not favorable for devotional service. That is culture. But in the West, it's just the opposite. Best not to follow that Western culture. And India is following very rapidly also the West. But still, there are remnants in India. It's more easy to become a devotee in India than here. But yes, what's favorable, what is unfavorable, and then one has to learn that Krishna is my maintainer. And we hear that in the Bhagavatam, how Krishna wonderfully maintains all his devotees and nourishes them spiritually and materially. He says that also in Bhagavad Gita, that Ananta Sintiyantam Yechana Prapasite Samnitya Bhuktam Yogse Mahakamyam. I provide my devotees what they need, and yes, I give them opportunities. Means what they need is what opportunities to engage in devotional service Krishna gives to his devotees. And he protects their Krishna consciousness. That's a spiritual protection. He may also materially protect if we need to use it in Krishna service. But this, yes, Krishna maintains, nourishes his devotees. And he protects them. So that's the next stage. Krishna is my real maintainer, and he's my only protector. And that's important, only protector. That others may be also protectors, but that is very temporary, these protections. Krishna gives us spiritual protection. He protects our Krishna consciousness. He gives us opportunity to advance more and more in that. And we see that in the Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj, he got everything materially and spiritually. And Krishna sent Narada Muni to help him to advance in devotional service. So that's interesting. There's a cooperation between the spiritual master and Krishna. Krishna sends the spiritual master. It's mystical. And that right at the moment when it's needed. We saw also Srila Vyasadeva was pondering that I do not feel satisfied after writing all this Vedic literature. What is wrong with me? What did I do wrong? And then Narada Muni appeared mystically. Suddenly he was there. And then when we understand that Krishna is my maintainer and my protector, and we are completely dependent on him, then we become humble and we decide to surrender, humility and surrender. But it's a process we have to go through. So the spiritual master by his words can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and injects knowledge transcendental. Spiritual master gives you the knowledge, gives you the medicine you need. What is this medicine? Medicine is described in the 10th canto, in the first verses. Nirvita ser upahiyamanas, papasutakshotra manobiramat. So by to remove the contamination of our heart, which makes us identifying with the body. To remove that contamination, we must take a medicine. Yeah, that's if Vitatase Vayamas, then this is the medicine of hearing about Krishna, hearing sufficiently about Krishna. If we hear sufficiently about Krishna, so then our heart will become purified. That if we don't hear every day the Bhagavatam, we are in trouble. Because we need the mercy of the spiritual master. If we don't read every day the Bhagavatam, we don't get the mercy of the spiritual master. We commit an offense to the spiritual master. What's the proof of that? If you chant your rounds, you do service, but you don't hear the Bhagavatam, that we commit offense to the spiritual master. Prabhupada said to once, He said to his disciples, why do you think I'm getting up in the middle of the night to translate these books? That I give up my sleep just to translate these books? It's for you to read. If you don't read my books, Guru Avakya, it's no offense to the spiritual master. And then the mercy will not flow if we make offense to the spiritual master, because that's one of the 10 offenses in the holy name. That is what Prabhupada mentioned many times, that when we hear Prabhupada read his books, it penetrates our heart. And surely this contamination starts to go. It's the slow process of devotional service, but a very sure process. Our contamination of identifying with this body and running after the opposite sex, it's very deep. It's going back lifetimes and lifetimes. We have been doing that. Even in animal species, we have been doing that. It's not just you have these bad habits and you can give it up at once. It takes a time. But the process of bhakti is so strong that is by the mercy of the spiritual master, only our heart becomes purified. If we do this in a steady way every day, here in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that, and then this fire of material existence will be extinguished. That, so therefore, we should follow in the footsteps of Arjuna. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as his spiritual master and is surrendering to him with great humility. First he's praising him, and then Krishna will explain what happens, what is happening, and how to solve the problem. And so, in that way, he will protect his devotees. That Krishna is our only protector. That for us, there is only Krishna consciousness means living in a relationship with Krishna every moment. And we can connect every moment to the chanting, to prayers, one, praying to the Lord. But we need to learn to pray for the right thing, not for material things. Therefore, we must get to know what's pure devotional service. That pure devotional service is not about us. It's about giving Krishna pleasure. If we give everything up to give Krishna pleasure, then Krishna takes care of us. He's our ultimate protector and maintainer. No worries anymore. Like children depending on their parents. When young children, they don't have worries that about their maintenance and protection. That, so that is what I could say on this verse. Any questions or comments, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful class, and also explaining how the process works. But how would we understand that, how much is needed individually? Because sometimes um, we don't get enough time to do, hearing or reading. So how a individual can fix specific time, and so that he or she can see whether that is helping in their progress.
Yeah, that brings up the question of time scheduling that and priorities. We should make our schedule so that we have time for spiritual life. Otherwise, there's something wrong. Time to have morning program, time at least to chant our rounds, some time to read. That can be half an hour, that's fine. But we have to read also. It's a question of priorities. The purpose of life is to get free from material entanglement and go back to Godhead. If we don't take time for that and we think other things are more important, it's not going to happen. So no, we must make time that, and I understand the point that sometimes it's difficult, but yeah, we need to have some time to think and connect with Krishna. Time for japa, time for reading. These two at least should be there. Service that you will have without any problem. A lot of service in Grihastha life, no problem. But time for japa and time for reading must be there every day. That Guru Maharaj was always very busy, but many times I saw him also reading. He was also reading. That, of course, he was in a special position. He translated the Bhagavatam. Then you don't have to take time for reading. You are busy with the Bhagavatam. And therefore, it's good also to take sannyas. You have to study so much because you have to explain so many things. So these are ashrams which are more conducive for it. But anyway, we have to go to the ashrams. And the Grihastha ashram is also meant to be an ashram. Prabhupada explains what's the difference. The devotee asked, what's the difference between a Grihastha who lives outside the temple and one who lives in the temple? Prabhupada said there is no difference. If they live outside the temple, they should have their own morning program, complete morning program and evening program, as in the temple. And that's the Grihastha ashram. That is what Prabhupada wanted. That, of course, when Prabhupada was with us, everyone was practically living in the temple at that time. Later they moved out. But they moved out and their morning and evening program watered down and they got in problems spiritually. And that's the reason. This is what Prabhupada says. That and what he wanted from us. Morning and evening program. It can be shorter due to circumstances, but it should be there in essence. And that is what I could say on that. But, yeah. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Then we will continue next week with the next verse and hear what happens after Arjuna's prayers. Good. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
जय श्री
Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada.
His Holiness
Well,
Bhakti Prabhupada Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.